There won't be any opening remarks from our coaches this morning, so we're going to go straight to questions. I will be scanning the room, so please notify me if you have a question. So I add you to the list. Wait to have a microphone in your hand. Identify yourself and the media you are representing. And also specify who should be answering your question, one or both of the coaches. Il n'y aura pas de discours, on va passer directement aux questions. Si vous en avez une, s'il vous plaît, me faire un signe demain que je puisse vous ajouter à la liste. Veuillez attendre d'avoir un micro dans vos mains pour poser la question, sans oublier de mentionner à qui s'adresse la question. Mic's on. We're good? All right. Who wants to go first? Arash Madani.
Good morning, guys. Jason, Sankey and Lemon have just been what kind of adds to your defense, and what have they just done for the overall complexion of your football team?
They've added to it more than anything. Leadership, experience. They're both high caliber players. They fit in right away to what we did. They both arrived and played the first couple days after arrival. And they did that by working hard, fitting in, students of the game. Communication's been tremendous between the coaches, them, and the players around them. And they've led by action more than anything, and they've been tremendous for us.
A younger, faster, cheaper business. What do vets like that add?
Well, I mean, again, it's experience, and you know, when you need them, when there's a need, and you look out there, and a guy like Lemon and Sankey are available, you go after it, and they provided, like I said, that leadership that we needed at the time. You know, and veteran presence at that position, at both positions, to be honest with you. And obviously, it's paid off with the stretch run that we've had. And obviously, a game like this, you want as many guys that have that experience to help us out.
Excuse me, Michael, Dan Ruff of the Canadian Press. Good morning, gentlemen. Can you give us an update on Dalton Schoen and Adam Bighill regarding their status for Sunday?
Yeah, Dalton Schoen is continuing to rehab and work every single day, and Biggie's just starting that process. So if you're in our room on a daily basis, I say the same thing every day. I'll never rule a guy out. Just got to give him hope, and why would I dash that? So two pros, obviously, they attack every single day. The same, whether it leads to them playing or not, we'll see.
We're going to go to Paul Friesen.
Hi, Paul Friesen, Winnipeg Sun. Could you each share a story or two about working together, your first impressions maybe of each other, and maybe when you first thought that guy might be a head coach in the Grey Cup one day?
Go ahead.
Well, thank Paul. Obviously, having played against Osh for as long as, in my career, and then getting a chance to be on the same side as him, you look at the work ethic it takes as a player to play as long as he did, and you see it as a coach right away, the professionalism he takes each and every day, the dedication to his craft. But Osh is a great person, and you only get to see that when you're around him every single day. A lot of fun to be around as well. So he lightened the mood for me, obviously, my first year coaching and being on staff with him. Constant talks about football, but just about everything. I really enjoyed that aspect of Osh, caring and all that. And, throughout a season, there's ups and downs and all that, and you want to be surrounded by great people that make your job easier, I guess. And that was one of the things I looked at coaching with Osh, and then just see what a bright mind he has for football. That's when I knew he'd be in a Grey Cup, winning a Grey Cup, or as a head coach. Whatever he decided to do, I know he'd be successful. Just watching the attention to detail, the way he interacts with people, the way he coaches up players, the way he cares about players and people. That's what it takes, in my opinion, to win, and he has all that in spades.
Should never go second, I think, for that question. Damn it. Blew that one again. So the staff we were on in Toronto together was, we were a lot younger, obviously, but it was a lot of fun. There was I'm doing special teams, so my day ends maybe a little differently than other guys too, right? So you had time to move around the building and talk to guys, so it was a lot of fun. I mean, I probably wasted other guys' times more than they wanted, but playing against Jay, obviously, you know how competitive he is, but then when you're in the same building and you decide to work out with him, you get schooled every single day in every single exercise we would ever do. And so you see how competitive, how fiery he was. And then after that, I was going home, but he was still going back to work and staying until all hours. It's interesting when we'd get a new guy in the building and Scott would say, I need this guy ready. It's one of the first things I noted was there was no way in hell that guy wasn't going to be ready as soon as that player was, as soon as possible for that player. Like if it was a player that was going to take 4 days, he'd be ready in 3.5, right? If it was a player that was going to take 16 days, it'd be 14, right? So Scott would stick this guy with Jay, and Jay would just get him tuned up, and he'd be ready to take the field faster than I've ever seen, which I thought it was one of the first things I noticed, and I thought that was pretty important to our team.
As head coaches, your personalities or demeanors are so different on the sidelines. Do you ever look at the other guy and say, how and why does that work, and how can it work when it's so different?
I don't think we're that different.
Yeah.
Very emotional, and you've decided to
Right,
change that a bit. And Mike, you rarely show your feelings on the sidelines.
I think just, you are who you are. I mean, I talked about it yesterday about noticing an awareness of yourself and growth that you need to have at times. And, that was something I've grown to understand about myself and tried to be better at this year. But I think we're still both how we are. I mean,
Yeah, I think authenticity is,
Yeah.
like, we're the same in that regard. We believe that you have to be who you are, and if you try to be anybody else, it ain't going to work.
Yeah, and you can improve yourself, but it has to come from within. If someone forces something on you and says you need to change, I don't think it ever works that way. The things that people have noticed about the way I've done things differently this year is because I wanted to personally change, and I wanted to represent a different, something different about myself, and I felt it needed to be changed in order to maybe be in this chair someday, to be honest with you.
Next question from John Hodge, followed by G.C. Abbott. Then we have Jeff Hamilton, Neil Davidson, Ted Wyman, Dave Naylor, and Fred Degle. John.
Check. John Hodge, 3 Down Nation. Question for Osh. With the operations cap, it's become common for head coaches to take on additional duties. Your club is in a bit of a unique situation. You're 4th straight Grey Cup, but you don't have a GM under contract for next year. Is there any chance that you could be in the running to be the team's GM next year?
No, I wouldn't say so. And honestly, I think we're taking away from a great opportunity here for both teams talking about stuff like that, the business side, right? We're here to talk about football. I anticipate Kyle to be the club's GM next year.
Thank you.
J.C. Abbott, 3 Down Nation. This one's for Coach Moss. When you were hired this off-season, you inherited most of your coaching staff, which is fairly unusual for a head coach. I wonder what that experience was like for you, instituting your vision for the team with a staff that you didn't necessarily choose yourself.
I'll just say this, I did choose it myself. I mean, Danny and I, when we were talking about the interview process and going through the interview process, when he asked me about being hired and offered me the job, it didn't come with, hey, you have to keep and retain everybody. It was, these are my recommendations. I will stamp these guys, and you do with them what you want. They have to fit into your vision. They have to fit with you and what you want. Well, one of the reasons I think I was hired was because of the relationship I do have with Danny and the understanding that we think very much alike in a lot of respects. And when he knows somebody's a great coach or a great person, it was easy to see when I interviewed him what he was talking about. So it made my job very easy talking to those individuals, seeing the success they did have the year before together, but just knowing, Danny had their back, and then talking with them, knowing they're good coaches and good people. I also had awareness of just about everyone on that staff, that I've worked with now in some shape or form, I knew quite a few of them, you know, and so it wasn't a stretch that I would retain those. And then the ones we did hire, you know, it was important to me to try to find guys that could vouch for them or had been part of Montreal's culture before, because that was something that was important in building what we have now. So I've been probably blessed with the staff that I had, to be honest with you, but you know, they fit into what we are, and that's why they're here.
Clearly, it's worked. You've gotten to this stage, but when you had those initial conversations, were there any reservations about going through that process?
Zero, and I'll tell you this, you know, not every GM head coach has the same relationship. You know, I have a unique relationship with Danny, having played for him, you know, never coached alongside him, but known him for 21 years. I know what the man is and what he's about and what he cares about and how he cares about people. And if he cares about someone, that kind of good enough for me. I just wanted to make sure they'd fit in with, you know, like you said, my vision and what the vision was for the club. And you know, you meet our coaching staff, and it's hard not to like them. I love the guys, and it was noticeable right away. And in talking with them, and I always say when you interview people, it's hard to get a gauge on someone, you know, in a 1 hour, 2 hour interview, or even in a couple day interviews if you're talking about coordinators. But when they've worked for an entire year with someone you really love and care about and respect their opinion, and they vouch for them, that speeds up the process. That's all I'll say. And I've been, like I said, very blessed to have the staff I have and thankful for all of them.
Jeff? Hey guys, this is for Jeff Hamilton, Winnipeg Free Press. Question for both of you guys. I'm wondering about coaching philosophy. It seems like you guys both are very similar in that you eat and breathe the game. You have a relationship with your players who, you know, where they're willing to, you know, that cliche, run through a wall for you. And so I'm wondering if you guys could each share what your pillars are, your philosophy in coaching, and what breeds success as a head coach.
I mean, we have football pillars, and then we just have, I guess, organizational or team ideas. I don't know if it's a philosophy or not. I think it's the same in probably any business that achieves some form of success, and it's in whatever business, it's really about the people you have. And if you are putting them first, I think, you know, outcomes eventually go your way, right? But the football side is a little different, but I think you have to treat them as people before you're really talking to them about being a player, right? You have to, and it's hard in a training camp setting with new guys and 100 people in there to get to know everybody. You know, you end up releasing a guy that you don't really have any relationship with, right? Or many of them. But over time, I think, you know, I've recognized that, you know, my role more and more is about just trying to deal with people before you deal with them as players.
I think you talked about the cliche of running through a wall. You know, one of the things we talked about and have talked about to the players, I believe the players are the most important part of your organization. That's the way I want them to feel. And it's our duty as an organization to make them feel that way and try to provide as much as possible. We ask a lot of them, obviously, the type of people we bring in and what we're looking for, but when they're in our building, we want them to feel that importance. And when you talk about running through a wall, I mean, one of my first things that, you know, we tell them is, we'll run through the wall for you first, so that you understand that we're not asking you to do anything any different. We want that feeling from you that you'll run it through for us, but we're going to run it for you first. You know, that's what I've built a lot of my thoughts on with the players. You know, we want them to feel important. We want them to work extremely hard, you know, for each other. And that's what, you know, a base philosophy for me is have fun. Have fun coming in the building. We want our players to come in the building every single day and enjoy being there around each other, around the culture we've provided for them. And that's throughout the organization. I would love everybody in part of the whole business side to the football side, because it takes everyone in an organization to win. And you want them to enjoy coming to the building and being around each other and have that feeling where you're not just playing for yourself, you're playing for a guy next to you or the person next to you. You know, and that's what we're trying to build each and every day. And it's, you know, it just doesn't happen. You know, you've got to want to do that. You got to have like-minded people to make it happen. And I think we have a lot of those individuals on our team.
Questions for you, Jason. You know, reading between the lines yesterday, talking about maybe, you know, tempering some of that passion on the sideline or whatnot. It sounds like you maybe did a little bit of soul searching after what happened in Saskatchewan last season. I'm wondering if during that process, if you ever felt that this opportunity would ever come again, and just where your head was at heading into that offseason, looking into this.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I've never looked for a job when I've had one. I've never cared about, the next job ever. I've always just been focused on the job I've had and, wanted to do that to the best of my abilities. I think anytime you get fired or anytime you don't have success, you're always looking at yourself first. And there's things that, obviously I can improve upon. As far as, ever thinking I'd ever be a head coach again, I mean, you have to have confidence in yourself and belief in yourself that you can get the job done. But that's not something I ever worried about happening again. I just wanted to be doing the job I was given. And then if someone wanted me or interviewed me for another job, if I felt like I was capable of it, I'd interview for it. And, I didn't think it would happen, obviously, after what transpired in Saskatchewan, but very grateful and thankful that it did. And then it was my duty from that point to just get better and see the things I needed to improve upon. And like I've talked about, I'm never going to curtail my passion for the game or what you see. It's just how I choose to go about some things I know I could be better at. And it's more for our team. And I talked about this yesterday. If you want a disciplined football team like Osh has, I mean, you don't do what he's done with his team and for over a long period of time without having a lot of discipline and being able to control things. And I felt like if that was a big ask of our players, that we wanted that, and it needed to start with me and how I react and do things. And that was just simple. It was just, a thing that I needed to have some awareness and work on, and I did. And, like I said, I'm just thankful to be here and have another opportunity.
We've got 8 questions lined up. We might be able to take 1 or 2 extra. We'll go to Neil Davidson. Neil.
Thank you. Neil Davidson from the Canadian Press. This question is for both of you. And following up on Paul's earlier question, you were colleagues on Scott Milanovich's coaching staff, a staff that produced a lot of head coaches. I wonder at the time, did you have any inkling of what lay ahead for those coaches?
Just to hit on what Jay said, I don't know that we were in a position to think that far ahead, right? What he said is pretty cool, because as a player, you would walk in sometimes and you would see a coach, close the door because they're on the phone and they're looking, you can hear them because the walls are thin, and they're on the phone looking for their next job, looking for their next job, looking for their next job. And, I didn't think I'd ever coach, right? But when that opportunity comes up, it's like, I don't ever want to be that guy, Like, I don't want to be looking for the next job. So with that staff, I think we had a lot of fun. We had super smart guys that I was always learning from, but I don't know that I ever had that foresight to say, oh, this guy, and this guy. I mean,
I would echo the same sentiment as Osh. I mean, you could see the talent on the staff. I mean, but I think we're all focused on one thing at a time, and that's what made that staff special, and that's what made that team special, in my opinion. Again, you have awareness of people and what their gifts are, and it's not far to stretch that imagination to think that people could go on to bigger things at some point. But to say when that time frame would come, I mean, I think we were all focused on doing our jobs, and that's just been my mentality. And anywhere I've gone is, you have one job to do, and don't ever think about anything else other than that job. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to yourself, the guy next to you, and the organization.
Ted?
Morning, gentlemen. Mike, this question's for you. I think back to 2021, and Kenny Lawler made this incredible catch in the West Final. That's pretty memorable, and then he does another one in this West Final this year. Would you describe him as a big game player?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think sometimes he gets in position where other guys might have to make an amazing catch, and he's always put himself in a good position, right? But it's those ones that not many other people are going to make that are quite memorable, and he has a bunch of those. I mean, there was one when he wasn't playing for us at the back of the end zone at Edmonton. I can picture that one right now. But Yeah, I think he's a gamer. I think you can see, his resolve, his attitude, his approach to work, his intensity of his intensity at work. At times where you're like, okay, yeah, this is the one, right? This is interesting. But he's quite talented, very gifted. His hands are really sticky. Like there's not many footballs that he can't get to and catch, right? So, but he's doing that every week. It just doesn't always look spectacular because he gets in good positions, so it doesn't have to look. Some receivers, every catch looks spectacular, because they're not getting into the right position to begin with, right? So Kenny gets into the right position a lot,
Appreciate that. And just one more about your team. Can you speak a bit about what you have in the linebacking core if Adam isn't able to go? Guys like Cole and Malik Clemens and Shane Gauthier.
Jesse Briggs, Shane Gauthier, Cole, Malik, Tanner Kidwalader. Who am I missing? Kyrie. They're a tight group. They spend a lot of time studying together. James Stanley does a great job with them. They're all prepared. Shane and Jesse have been around a long time, and they get everything figured out and they know what's going on. But they can all step in. Everybody there in that core can step in and once again contribute to winning.
Dave?
A couple questions, both for Jason. Jason, about 2 months after you took the head coaching job in Montreal, the league took over ownership of the franchise, and the next day free agency started, and your starting quarterback and your number one receiver went out the door. As honestly as you can, what were you thinking at that time about the opportunity you stepped into?
There was no regret. Danny and I, when he first called and asked me about taking this job, he said it's going to come with a possibility that these things, and he laid it out. He said, we could have new ownership, we could have players that don't want to come back, all those things, and I didn't hesitate then. I mean, I believe in Danny, and I believe in the vision he had for the organization and the work that he put into something and the people he was surrounding himself with at the top and the team really that fought through all that anyways during that season with all the things that were going on. So I wasn't shocked when the league took over. I wasn't shocked when the players decided to move on. We had discussed the possibilities and the plans ahead. And so to me at that point, it was just keep working and keep believing. And, that's what we ended up doing and grateful for that as well.
You mentioned that, as a coach, you just try to move forward and get better at things that you need to get better at. In your second go around as a head coach, what are the things that you either consciously do different or have just evolved in from your first time as a head coach in Edmonton?
Yeah, I think with experience, you kind of have been there, done that a little bit easier. I mean, it makes it easier, in my opinion. I mean, when the schedule comes out, you can kind of get your plans together. You can adjust on the fly better. You understand that things have to change at times and not make it such a big deal. And lend or rely on other people and be accepting of some things. So I think all the experiences you go through as a coach, they all are life lessons and they help you. And then you have a couple of years when you're not that guy and you're watching things unfold and you're learning from those as well. So I just think life's a learning experience, to be quite honest with you. And, you either get better or you don't, and you just try to strive to get better. And that's just what I've done. And again, I think it just comes down to that awareness.
Frédéric Day, Presse Canadienne.
Yes, hi, Frédéric from La Presse Canadienne, Montreal. Mike, the first one is for you. It's your fourth Grey Cup in a row. Does it get any more comfortable, or to the contrary, do you have to make sure you're not getting comfortable in that position?
Yeah, I think the second. I mean, it's certainly comfortable in terms of logistically we know how to move people around and how to schedule things and how to try and, make things easier for the players, for sure. But yeah, you try to treat it like it's your first one. I know it seems hard, like it could sound like that's not possible, but every year you have a new team, right? We do have a great core of vets that are returning, but we've got young guys that this is, their first experience. And as a coach, or even as veteran players, you just take 30 seconds to look at these young guys, and it can bring you right back to that. Oh, this is the first one. This is the first one for this group, right? So I think it's easier than people would think to treat this as this is the one.
And Jason, for you, how do you make sure that you have a lot of young players on this team, and some of your coaches never been to a championship game maybe? How do you make sure people don't get caught up in the moment and go to the task at hand?
Well, I mean, again, we talked about it at the beginning of the week with our players that, try to stay in your routine the best you can, but this is different, and we want you to enjoy it and be excited for it. But, the game will be a game. I mean, once it's kicked off, it's another football game for you guys. The work week will be like no other, and we want to embrace that first time, like Osh said, your first time together. And this is the first time we're all together in a Grey Cup. No matter how many guys have been to or haven't, that is a great mindset to have. So just being excited about the day, and our team's built on working. So once we get to work, these next couple days are in our meetings. Once we hit that field working, it's going to feel like a normal week, because that's what the expectation will be. And so try to make it as normal as possible, but realize it's not. But it's really how you react to it all, and I think it'll be a positive experience for our guys.
Steve Simmons?
Mike, Steve Simmons from the Toronto Sun. I know talking about yourself isn't one of your favorite things to do, but this is 4 in a row with the same team, and by my calculation, Hugh Campbell is the only person who has ever done that with the same team. It was 6 in a row for Hugh, but what does it feel now? Don Matthews didn't do this. Wally Buono didn't do this. What does it feel now that you become a legend of the Canadian Football League?
That just sounds goofy. No, yeah, I could never think that way. I hold those coaches in very high regard. I've had interactions with all of them, and I would never think of myself in the same light or conversation with those guys, ever. So I certainly don't look at it as 4 in a row. I never have. Honestly, when you're in the grind of the season, it is until you win that West final and somebody says that to you that you even realize, right? It's just not part of it. It's really, it has to be the first one, right? Because you say with the same team, but it really isn't. We have a lot of the same guys, but even, once again, the vets understand this isn't the same team.
For a crazy bouncer too, you're talking about going for 4 in a row wins.
Yeah. What ifs, What was Sudsy's line? Ifs and buts were candy and nuts. Or if was a skiff, we'd all go sailing. Something. Sudsy used to say all these things.
We'd all have a Merry Christmas, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't wrap myself up into anything like that. It seems like a frivolous waste of time to think all those things. Well, I'm not calling you frivolous, but
We'll go to Taylor. Yep.
Taylor Allen, Winnipeg Free Press. Question for Jason. What's the biggest difference between your team today and the team that played the Bombers back in Week 12?
More experience. After that game, we played another. And all those plays, all those practices, all those days together make you a better football team. So I flat out believe that, the work's been put in to become a better football team. We've proved it on the field with wins against stiff competition. We've stacked the days over and over and over again and got the most out of that. So I feel like we're a better football team. I know we're a better football team. That the expectations, we got to be at our greatest, and we've been working towards that really since May. but, you know, there's lessons to learn along the way. So one of those days was in Winnipeg. So I just feel like we're a better, more experienced football team because of what we've gone through. And that would be the expectation for being here, that you would do that. But I think that's the thought on our football team is, you know, we work every single day, and with that work comes expectations, and we have as great as expectations as anybody. So I just feel like we're a better football team, all three phases.
And question for Mike, you know, last year's Grey Cup, we saw Nick Hallett block a field goal. Last weekend, we see him block a punt that made a big difference in the game, obviously. Can you just take us through the art of blocking a kick and just how Nick's been able to do that not once but twice on the big stage for you guys?
Yeah, I think like technically all that stuff is stuff you can practice. Some guys have a knack for it. Marcus Sales was a guy that, you know, had a big knack for it. We've always had a guy that can do it. So, but the biggest thing is, you know, in a heartbeat, recognizing that opportunity that you're home, that you're there, you're getting to that spot, right? And he has that. I think that's what's missing sometimes. You can take the same guys that are both athletically very similar, both can do it technically, and then one guy does and one guy doesn't. You know, Derek Jones was another one for us that got a lot. You know, Nick's got that ability that in a fraction of a second, he sees the opportunity and is able to do something about it.
Daryl?
Over here, Daryl Davis of the Regina Leader Post. Jason, in the year since you left Saskatchewan, considering what's happened to the Rough Riders and considering you're here at the Grey Cup, is there ever a sense of redemption on your part?
To be quite honest with you, no. I mean, you know, I've long since sailed that. I mean, we played them early in the season, and you know, you work like hell to win every single week. You know, we beat them at home and moved on. And you know, what's transpired over there has happened. And obviously, my biggest concern all season's been about our team. And I love coming to work every single day, working with the group we have. I have no time, really, to be honest with you, to think of anything else. So I've focused all my energy and everything I can do to do my part to help our organization, and thinking about other people's organization isn't part of that.
What made you believe that Cody Fajardo was a good enough quarterback to get you here?
Well, knowing the person we were getting in Montreal, that's where it starts. You know, if you're envisioning a leader on your football team, you want a guy that shows up early and stays late and gives everything he has and is a great person. And he's got talent and ability, and he's tough. You know, the effort, ability, toughness, and effort is one of the three things we look for in players, and I know he has that. But not only that, he was experienced. I know how he handled himself in really tough situations, which in his last year in Saskatchewan is probably about as tough as it gets, mentally and physically, to be quite honest with you, what he was going through. So I saw all that and still believed watching him play, you know, that we could be successful with him. You know, and he'd been to a couple finals and played in them. So, you know, you're getting that experienced quarterback again, that if you're saying that's your goal is to get back to that, to get to here, well, it's one more step he had to take. And, you know, sometimes you got to believe that a guy going through all that is going to come out on the other end a much better player and a person and all those things. And, you know, that's the belief was. But obviously, talking with Danny and talking with AC, I wanted to make sure their opinion was heard as well. And they both believed the same things I saw. And so we were very thrilled to have him sign with us. Yep.
We'll go to Ben. We might be able to take Jeff and then Justin. Ben, go ahead.
Benoît Rioux, Journal de Montréal. There's a cup here that you won together in 2012 with Toronto. There's a particular moment that you share with the cup, like, or a funny story that you share together with the cup? You drink in the cup together?
I'm sure
No,
we did.
yeah, no doubt.
I don't know if that'd be funny to anybody.
Oh.
But, yeah, there you go. I won't lean back any further over that.
He's taking his shirt off next. I think because you drink out of the cup, you might not remember all the stories. But,
That's right.
no. I think it's a culmination of the season, right? You spend a lot of time together, an inordinate amount of time together, right, as a coaching staff. And there is one picture of the group together that I really enjoy. You know, when you see it, when it comes up again, it's like, oh yeah, it's on the field, but you know, the actual with the cup, I don't know. I don't think there's one probably.
I can't think of one either. I know when you win one, it's forever, and those memories are forever. And you know, it's something no one can ever take away from you. And so those memories are instilled in my brain. And you know, again, you always want to do it with a certain group of guys. That's your vision always, and we couldn't have had a better group, in my opinion. And obviously a lifelong friend in Osh, and you know, you talk about legends and all that. I know he won't say it, but he is a legend in our sport, and I'm not afraid to say it. He's tremendous. So, you know, and I'm thankful to know him.
All right, we've got 1 minute left, Jeff, so I'm going to allow this one. Go ahead.
Guys, Grey Cup week's often a good opportunity to reflect on the league, where it's been, where it's going. You know, we ask so many different people, you know, how to make the league better, what could be changed, all these things, but we don't really ask the people who are in it every single day. And as two hardcore CFL, fans and wanting to see the game grow, if you could make a change, or what would your advice be on growing this game? What do you think needs to happen? 1 minute.
If we don't answer, time will expire.
Yeah. I'll say this. I know it's hard with 9 teams to schedule the season, you know, to make it perfect for everybody. I know one of the challenges as a coach and with our players is the schedule, is playing on short weeks quite often throughout a season and doing things. And, you know, I think when you talk about product on the field and all those things, when you want to see the best out there, I think it's a challenging thing, but it's also a unique thing to our league. We have 9 teams. You know, we play across the country. You know, we have a great broadcasting partner, all that stuff. But I know there's challenges with that, and I know it's difficult. And you know, I don't know what the answer truly is, but I know that's one of the challenges we face as coaches. Personally, I feel it. But you know, I think our game's great. I think it's a phenomenal game. I don't know that I would change anything about our game, to be quite honest with you. And even with the challenges I just said, you love it, you embrace it, you know, because it is different. And sometimes a challenge makes you a better team and a better person and all those things. But our league is phenomenal. I'm thankful for the longevity of it and what it's provided and what it provides everybody in this room and as fans.
Yeah, every top company in the world has challenges, right? I think we should celebrate and keep focused on how great a game this is, how uniquely Canadian it is, and how accessible it is compared to other pro sports, right? So, I mean, that's who we are, and grinding is part of our business, and we should celebrate that. You got a league full of guys that grind because they love it, and I think that's a good way to start a business. You know, I'm sure there's always things you can fix, but it's the same everywhere.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Note to media, we have a media workroom further down the hallway there, and apparently there's food. Breakfast burritos for everybody. So there you go. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you a little bit later.